Santa Cruz with their new album Catharsis. I am a big Santa Cruz fan. Discovered them a few years ago with this album, Screaming for Adrenaline, which is an awesome listen. It's one of the albums that I discovered when I found out that Finland was bringing glam, sleazy hair metal back to the world, and quickly loved it. I give this an 8 out of 10. Followed it up with their self-titled album, Santa Cruz. This is fantastic. I gave this 10 out of 10. I absolutely love this album. It's one of those albums I played over and over again. The only problem with this is I figure how the hell are they going to follow that up? And I didn't think they'd be able to. They did with Bad Blood Rising. They matured as songwriters, and this is, if that self-titled album was Appetite for Destruction, this expands the band into a Use Your Illusion territory. They became a much better band. Gave this 10 out of 10, and it was my album of the year in 2007. Here we got the t-shirt. Santa Cruz. So, obviously I was gutted when they disbanded a few years ago. Yeah. And then I heard Archie Cruz was going to put together a new lineup of Santa Cruz. I'm like, okay, that's cool. There was debate about whether he would go into a solo name or what would be the best, but I'm like, okay, cool, keep Santa Cruz name alive, and it'll be different. He's a great songwriter, he's a great musician. I'm sure he'll find musicians that will fit the Santa Cruz image, brand, name, style. So I'm like, okay, cool, we'll see what happens. And we knew there was an album coming out this year, and in the lead up we had 4 singles released. The first one being Changing of Seasons. Starts off in familiar territory. You kind of get the vibe of Santa Cruz. You got some of the whoa, all that type of stuff that they used to do. Like, okay, this could be cool. It's familiar. It's different. It's a different style. It's a different band, but it could be okay. The next single, Tell Me Why, it's actually pretty cool. It's actually really cool. It's probably my favorite of the 4 singles they released. It's a standout on the album. It's got the big chunky chords and the catchy chorus. Okay, bring on the new album. I'm getting excited. Third song, Into the War. That did very little for me. Very little at all. It's quite dull, that song. There's no guitar solo. And I know you don't need a solo on every song, but even without the solo, it's just dull. As I realised something around this time as well. The 3 singles they released were around the 3.5 minute mark. I'm thinking, I hope this isn't going to be a trend for the album, because it's actually going to be a very, very short album if that's the case. And that is actually the case. Roughly, songs go from about 3.5 to 4 minutes all the way through Catharsis. There's 11 songs and the album goes for 38 minutes. There is one song on the album that clocks in at 4.5 minutes. That's called I Want You to Mean It. And it's a slow song. It's a pretty cool song too. Not as good as Breathe or River Phoenix Part 2. They were outstanding on the previous album, if you ask me. Still a cool song, and it'd be nice to hear live. It's got a cool guitar solo. So it's not terrible, just not to the standard that I was hoping for. The 4th song that they released as a single, Testify. It's a very commercial effort, and honestly, they've lost their attitude and their edge and that energy and that fuck you, I'm taking over, I'm coming to conquer, get out of my way. And that's part of what many people loved about Santa Cruz. They were an old school rock and roll band that was taking no prisoners. Bang Bang, You're My Worst Enemy, or My Worst Enemy, is as close as you'll come to early style Santa Cruz on this album. And I think it's the only song on the whole album that's got some swearing in it. Now, if you're familiar with Santa Cruz, you'll know that they like to have their fair share of profanity in the lyrics. And there's hardly any profanity throughout Catharsis, which is a fucking shame because they do it well. It comes across as an attempt to be a bit more commercial, maybe being a bit more mainstream, taken a bit more seriously. And you know, it's not an easy game, rock and roll in 2019. I mean, they're not going to get much support in many countries around the world. And I don't know why that is. So I suppose if a band wants to try that angle to get things a bit more acceptable to a different type of audience, and if it brings the new audience back to their earlier stuff, then that's cool. But yeah, it's just a bit disappointing for old school fans. My biggest disappointment overall is the lyrics, because Archie Cruz wrote some fantastic stuff on Bad Blood Rising, and stuff that would give me goosebumps, and the song has to be really dramatic for that to happen. And it's just nothing that stands out at that level through the first 4 or 5 listens. It's only a 38-minute album. I've listened to it 4 or 5 times already, and it's just there's nothing. The album closes with a cover of Time After Time, the old Cyndi Lauper song. My reaction to that was another song title that they got, Tell Me Why. I mean, okay, it's an alright song. I just don't know why they chose that song to cover it. I know the band was going to be different with a different lineup, but I'm not sure why you would take away so many elements of what made Santa Cruz Santa Cruz and still continue with the same name. Funnily enough, when Spotify played the album out, it put on Pure Fucking Adrenaline from Bad Blood Rising. I'm like, yeah, this is the band I love. It's just different. And you kind of get through the album and think, yeah, it's not bad. It's not what I expected. It's okay. And then it just wakes you up with early Santa Cruz. Thank you, Spotify. I know things change, new lineup. They're all talented. It's a good band. So if this was a new band I was hearing for the first time, I'd probably be a bit more accepting. But when you get to your 4th album, whether you like it or not, you've got the baggage of what people know you as. So you kind of have to deliver what people expect. I'm not writing Santa Cruz off yet. They're still a great band. Archie Cruz is a very talented musician and a songwriter. Hopefully they tour this album, they come together as a band, they perform some of the old songs. You might get a nice hybrid of what they're trying to do with this album and what they've done in the past, and bring it all together. You could have something awesome. But overall, this album, while not being terrible, it's not fantastic either. I gave this 7 out of 10, and that's the lowest score of all 4 albums that they've released. My standouts are Tell Me Why, Bang Bang, My Worst Enemy, True Believer, and I Want You to Mean It.